Conor Benn is a big welterweight. In the ring on Saturday night, Chris Eubank Jr. will be between 10 pounds and a stone heavier.
Everything is riding on this fight. This is the biggest fight of my career. The most amount of money, the most amount of pressure, the most amount of everything. Everything is riding on this. A loss would, it would finish me. It would ruin me.
Smash his fucking head in. Honestly, I can't wait to smash his head in. You see April 26th? So fucked, isn't it? Yeah. He's in big trouble.
The waiting is over. Eubank Jr. versus Benn is finally happening. The tension is running high, and boxing legends have made their ultimate predictions. Even Liam Smith, the man who fought Eubank Jr. twice last year, is tipping him to defeat Conor Benn. Despite handing Eubank a shocking TKO loss in their first meeting, Smith saw something different in the rematch, where Chris came back sharper, more focused, and completely dominated. That version of Eubank, Smith believes, has too much experience, size, and ring IQ for Benn to handle. When a former rival turned supporter, it says a lot about the level Eubank is operating on heading into this fight.
I think Eubank beats him on points.
Eubank Benn, what do you think happens?
You know what, I'm a little bit torn at the moment, but I'll stick with what I've always said. I think Eubank beats him on points, but I won't be surprised if Conor wins. I think Eubank is firmly on the slide, and I'll get stick for saying that.
Similarly, Roy Jones Jr. has placed his bet on Chris Eubank Jr. for this bout, admiring his ring experience and adaptability. Nevertheless, Jones didn't underestimate Conor Benn's ability, recognizing the young boxer's power and technique. Although he's favoring Eubank to win, Jones regards Benn as a real threat who might pull a surprise if given the opportunity.
I think it's going to be a very good fight. Conor has punching power chances. Chris is the bigger guy, so you give Chris the advantage going in because he's a bigger guy, but Conor does have exceptional punching power, so it's going to be a great fight. I think Chris should win the fight. I think Chris should outbox him, outsmart him, but he will have to be smart early because Conor is a great puncher.
Johnny Nelson has also aligned his opinion with that of Chris Eubank Jr., but here's the point of interest. It is not his boxing skills by themselves. Nelson cited Eubank's consistent and frequent performances in the ring as the chief reason, detailing how always being regularly engaged against quality levels of opposition affords him some kind of distinction. By way of contrast, Benn's enforced break from boxing following controversy recently may put him at a disadvantage. For Nelson, it would be Eubank's ring rhythm and condition that might ultimately decide.
That's the only reason why I go against Conor Benn, because of inactivity. I think he's not boxed for 15 months and his career is staggered, and at one point I said this guy's one of the fastest improving fights I've seen in this country. Unfortunately, his career came to a halt, the progression of career came to a halt, and I think that's the only thing I weigh against him, because Chris in his last fight, I didn't think he looked outstanding, but he's being more consistent, he's being busier.
Meanwhile, Harlem Eubank is unequivocally supporting Chris Eubank Jr., labeling the bout a straightforward mismatch when it comes to weight, level of experience, and quality of opposition. He pointed out that Eubank Jr. has fought top-class fighters at multiple weights, something Benn has yet to do. In Harlem's opinion, the difference in size and battle-hardened CV of his cousin will prove too great for Benn to handle when the bell sounds.
It's a mismatch. It's an entertaining matchup.
Why is it a mismatch?
Because of ability, because of weight classes. Chris Jr. is a middleweight and a super middleweight. He's naturally a super middleweight. So, he's having to starve himself to come down, and, with all the catch weights and all of this stuff, it's a mismatch. He is operated at world level. He's been in with the likes of George Groves, and the list goes on. It's a mismatch in ability and weight class.
Teddy Atlas also had a neutral view of the fight, but did provide some keen insight into what Chris Eubank Jr. needs to do to win. Atlas indicated that Eubank's route to victory is employing his advantage in size and reach to control distance and set the pace. He stressed the need to keep Benn on the perimeter, utilizing the jab well and not being drawn into a fight. While not choosing a decisive winner, Atlas drew up a strategic plan that worked in Eubank's favor if he remains disciplined and gets it done.
Eubanks, wants to probably keep it on the outside as much as he can and use his skill sets to, use his hand speed and his ability to throw counter punches and, punches from different angles. He needs space, or space accommodates him pretty well and favors him pretty well when he has that space to do that.
Teddy Atlas not only detailed how Eubank Jr. would win, he also outlined how Conor Benn might turn the tables. In Atlas's view, Benn's secret to success is his potential to close the distance rapidly and turn it into a nasty physical brawl on the inside. By dodging around Eubank's jab, cutting off the ring, and releasing his hands at close distance, Benn can negate the reach advantage and throw Eubank off his rhythm. For Atlas, it comes down to who does their game plan better under pressure.
And I would think that Ben would like to take that space away, like to kind of work his way in and maybe go to the body like a better BF with a Bevo, take the legs away, slow him down a little bit, put the pressure on him, get to him, get into the geography that can get him as close as possible to him, to use his skill sets.
Just like Teddy Atlas, Tony Bellew provided a balanced democratic opinion on the fight. He did not take sides per se, but he did dissect how both fighters have clear paths to winning, depending on what happens in the rounds. By Bellew's accounting, the initial rounds belong to Conor Benn when he is fresh, explosive, and seeks to impose his will with pressure. But the longer the fight goes, the more that comes into play as Chris Eubank Jr.'s experience, conditioning, and ring IQ get him through it. For Bellew, survival and adjustment. If Benn is able to create chaos early on, he indeed has a serious chance. But if Eubank rides it out, he might take it away late.
This is a fight, in my opinion, of two halves. The first 6 rounds will belong to Conor Benn. He will not be able to keep Conor Benn off for 6 rounds. If he is able to absorb what Conor Benn is able to dish out for 6 rounds, the fight then turns in his favor, because the second 6, that's when size does come into play.
Conversely, Barry Hearn supports Conor Benn. The Matchroom founder feels Benn has the most to demonstrate, and sheer will may be enough to swing it. For Hearn, Benn's determination to rise above his father's shadow and forge his own legacy might prove sufficient to defeat the more seasoned Eubank Jr.
I think with Conor Benn on this, I think he's gone through more than enough in his life, which has now been completely exonerated. What a waste of 2 years of a young man's life. He's got a point to prove, but Eubank is the bigger man. So I see it as a 50-50 fight, and I believe that Conor Benn can knock out Eubank Jr.
Surprisingly, Amir Khan has also backed Conor Benn. Khan thinks Benn's power and pressure will be too much for Eubank Jr. Khan identifies Benn as the hungrier, fresher man, eager to make an impact and seize the moment under the spotlight.
Conor fights him. Yeah. I've always said Conor wins that fight. Yeah. I've always said he wins that fight against Eubank. Eubank's a slow starter, Conor starts fast.
Just like Amir, Darren Till has also publicly backed Conor Benn, going so far as to attack Chris Eubank Jr. as latest retirement threats in the event of a loss. Till had no hesitation in accusing Eubank of throwing away his career by potentially quitting rather than accepting the ramifications of defeat. Till is convinced Benn's aggression and mental strength at a young age will get the better of Eubank, and he's not a big fan of Eubank's retirement talk, considering it to be a weakness.
Chris is obviously the guy who should beat him because he's a lot heavier, maybe more seasoned, but it's definitely a 50-50 fight in my eyes. I think Conor's going to beat him. So yeah, you can see where that thought process comes from, but who knows? I know Chris likes to play poker a lot, so maybe comes back for the money or something.
Moving on, Ricky Hatton is also backing Conor Benn, hailing the young fighter's confidence and unbreakable spirit. Hatton, a fighter famous for his own fearless fighting spirit, believes he sees the same spark in Benn, a fighter who will not be intimidated and stands up when the pressure is at its most intense. Even though he respects Eubank Jr.'s experience, Hatton feels that Benn's attitude and motivation might prove to be the deciding factor on the night.
Everything's pointed at Chris Eubank Jr., but I think I might have a sneaky few quid on Conor, to be honest with you. His drive and his confidence and his self-belief is something that I've only ever seen in a handful of people, and he's going to need that, and I think that might be enough against Eubank.
Eddie Hearn has been Conor Benn's most vocal supporter in the lead up to this fight, and he hasn't been shy. Hearn has boldly forecast a Benn win, going so far as to say that it won't be such a challenge as others perceive. Favoring Benn's readiness, strength, and mental attitude, Hearn has painted the picture of a one-sided encounter, one where Benn steps up to the plate and sends Eubank Jr. packing with authority.
Conor Benn get off the jet and into the rolls. Let me tell you something, we're coming for fucking war next Saturday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. War. That is it. Conor Benn should be walking around this week. He should be ring walking with the Marvin Hagler hat on. War. Because that is what we're coming for. He's prepared for war. He's left no stone unturned, and he's coming to shit up next week in front of 65,000 people.
As outspoken as Eddie has been in backing Conor Benn, he provided more context in another interview, remaining firmly in Benn's corner. Hearn made much of the quality of Benn's preparation for the fight. He disclosed that Benn has been sparring top-level fighters, most notably William Skull, who's about to fight Canelo Alvarez, and middleweight contender Denzel Bentley. In Hearn's view, these intense, high-intensity sessions have honed Benn's timing, calmness, and ring awareness. For Hearn, it's not hype. It's actual preparation against actual threat, and that's why he thinks Benn is well prepared to meet the test that is Chris Eubank Jr.
Conor Benn is leaping up 2 divisions from 147 to fight a much bigger man. And that's what makes it a 50-50 fight, because I think all round, Conor's the better fighter. But it's a dangerous fight, and I just see Conor Benn knocking him out inside 6 rounds. I just think he's punching so hard. All his sparring's been with Saras, William Skull, who's fighting Canelo Alvarez, Denzel Bentley, the middleweight. Like, he is ready to unload, and this event is going to be wild.
Even Chris Eubank Sr. took the unexpected position, tactfully suggesting that Conor Benn may very well emerge victorious. He questioned the hype that this is indeed a genuine legacy fight for his son, particularly in consideration of Eubank Jr.'s recent antics and spotty concentration. As per Eubank Sr., the sole true motivation of his son appears to be putting an end to Benn, not defending legacy, suggesting that at heart even he is aware of the danger Benn presents.
You've said this is a legacy fight.
It is being billed as a legacy fight.
Okay, they have built it as a legacy fight. So this started in 1990 with me and Nigel. So let me ask you. So my son, he smashes an egg on the face of Conor. You want me to be associated with this is what you call legacy? That's not legacy.
It's legacy, isn't it, Chris?
That is bringing the game of boxing into disrepute. That of which would have been a disqualifying effect back in my day. No different to the language of Conor.
Just like his fellow sports veteran, Peter Fury is solidly in Conor Benn's corner, pointing to Benn's impressive endurance and hard-hitting punches as major reasons. Fury thinks that throughout the course of the fight, Benn's incessant pressure and capacity to keep power going in the latter rounds might wear down Eubank Jr. For Fury, it's not merely youth, it's about endurance, toughness, and the sort of punching ability that can alter a fight in a split second.
Listen, between Mick Hennessy and Izzy, they'll sort you his fights out, and for me, I'm just interested in one thing: getting him ready. You know, so that's it. I don't want to know boxing, politics. I'm not interested. You know, I'm going to keep out of everything. Whoever it is he says he's going to fight, he fights. That's it. You know, bring on the best out there.
Billy Joe Saunders has also joined Conor Benn, having a dig at his former foe, Chris Eubank Jr. Saunders had words for Eubank's poor pacing of his punches, saying he punches too hard early in the fight and runs out of steam as the fight wears on. He also mentioned that age might finally get the better of Eubank in this fight. To Saunders, Benn's youth, timing, and more astute energy management might be the ingredients that can expose Eubank's weaknesses.
Eubank can fight, but he just can't box.
Right.
That's the problem. He can fight, but he can't box. Eubank is, when we were going back 24, 25, like a wind-up toy, you could get him fit, wind him up, let him go, and he'd go all day.
Yeah.
Now we're at the stage of 33, 34, where you've got to learn to pace yourself, pick your punches, flow around. No disrespect to Liam Smith, but he was no different than a punch bag.
Adam Smith has come out in support of Conor Benn, pointing to the young fighter's speed and agility as greatest strengths. Smith feels Benn's quick footwork and pinpoint combinations could cause serious issues for Eubank Jr., particularly if he dictates the pace early. For Smith, Benn's explosiveness and capacity to punch in bursts may yet be the difference maker, and the victor come fight night.
I think Conor Benn will bring speed. He does hit hard. Whether he's going to hit hard enough to derail Eubank Jr. on the night, we don't know. But I think because of that, it's a really difficult fight to assess. It's a really difficult fight to predict. If he's tamed, and Troy, goes back to your point, right? The emotions. If he's tamed and if he's strategic, he could make this a really, really difficult fight for Chris Eubank Jr.
Furthermore, Mark Tibbs presented a solid argument in favor of Conor Benn, highlighting Benn's speed, explosiveness, and ferocity in the ring. He pointed out how the physical dynamics of the bout could work in Benn's favor, highlighting that Conor is going up in weight and gaining strength while Chris Eubank Jr. is going down, possibly losing some of his physical advantage. Tibbs feels that this disparity may be a major factor, particularly if Benn utilizes that extra power to control the early rounds. For Tibbs, the momentum will change depending on how each fighter takes their adjusted frame into the fight.
I mean, the ferocity of Conor Benn is could be overwhelming for Eubank, but Eubank, listen, he's fought the better opposition in his career. But I think he's not the most active of guys either, and he's getting on a little bit. It's a 50-50 man, but yeah, I think the weight will suit Conor Benn, and therefore I'll give him the edge. Yeah.
That's the last say from the experts, some towards Eubank's experience, others towards Benn's power and appetite. It's a genuine 50-50 shot, and now it's your turn. Who do you believe wins it, Eubank Jr. or Conor Benn? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the analysis, give it a like, subscribe for more boxing content, and we'll see you right after the fight with the full report. Thanks for watching. See you on Fight Night.